Is the mic on there? Thank you.
We'll call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock on December 2nd.
Madam Chair, could you pull the microphone close to you and see that it's activated? Thank you.
Is
May
something
not be
missing?
turned on either.
The foam piece is missing.
Okay,
Is it on?
works anyway?
And then hit the button just down at the base.
Correct.
Yeah, there we go.
There's an echo somewhere.
Very good.
Thank you.
Meeting comes to order. Do we have any instructions for the Zoom meeting by our staff?
Yes, I can read them for you.
Please.
Microphone.
The San Benito County Planning Commission welcomes your comments. Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation total of 3 minutes. As participating on Zoom, select the Participants tab and click the Raise Hand icon.
Ariel?
If you are using a phone, please
Okay.
press *9 to raise your hand. When your turn arrives, you will hear that you have been unmuted. At this time, state your first name, last name, and county you reside in for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Gibson?
Ready, salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff acknowledges all commissioners present, 4 in the chambers, and Commissioner Navarro in a remote capacity on the computer. Thank you.
Okay. Remote capacity, that's a good one. Acknowledgement of certificate of posting and consent agenda, draft meeting minutes. Are there any comments on the minutes? Gentlemen?
I don't have any.
None.
Yeah?
No.
Okay, we were given quite a few. That was from September 4th, August 19th, and February 19th. Can we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro. Commissioner Navarro. Let's see, we're going to go on to the regular agenda. Progress of amendments to Affordable Housing Ordinance, Chapter 21.03.
Oh, boy.
Thank you.
Star Wars.
Ms. Angelica, is Jamila in a remote? She's presenting?
She is not.
All right, with the chair's pardon, if we could maybe return to this item at a later point, once
Sure.
we have Jamila present.
We'll continue then to public hearing. Use permit 1173-17, Cienega Road Adult Residential Care Expansion, owner applicant Jerry O. and Felicidad R. Runkelborg.
Good evening, Michael Kelly, Associate Planner. And before I continue, I just want to be sure that I'm doing this right. Will I need to, what do I need to do if I want to show slides? My presentation's not open yet. So.
Oh, okay, open your presentation first.
Okay, all right. I'll do that. And, and coming. Okay.
Before you begin, Mike,
Yes.
would you bring the microphone closer to you because you're quite muffled?
Yeah, yes.
Thank
yes.
you.
Good evening. Once again. I'm here again to talk about use permit 117317 at 3370 Cienega Road, the assisted care facility at that location and the proposed expansion of that facility. The commission 2 weeks ago requested that that staff come back with a resolution that would allow for approval of the project. And that's what staff has brought to the meeting this evening. Just to mention some points of what's changed in the resolution, the main thing is the two required findings, required under code, for the commission to approve the use permit. Main changes to finding number 2, the one that says that no damage, hazard, or nuisance would result from approval of the use permit given conditions of approval. And the evidence in there points to, of course, the facility evaluation report that the applicant brought in 2 weeks ago, which was written by the State Community Care Licensing Division and said that the facility was out of the period of noncompliance and not any longer subject to the increased level of inspections, that the facility has maintained enough quality and followed through sufficiently on the plans of correction for earlier deficiencies as to be considered compliant under state regulations according to the licensing division. And I checked with the manager who signed off on this report, the manager from the licensing division, who confirmed that's how this report should be understood. So that's cited in the evidence, and you can use that to feasibly make that finding. The other finding is the finding to say that this facility is appropriately located according to the general plan and zoning and geographical location. And I pointed at the evidence for that last time, and that hasn't changed. It's still feasible to make that. In addition to that, the CEQA findings, California Environmental Quality Act finding, now points to exemptions, noting that this facility is an existing facility and would be expanded by simply small new construction, and the evidence written into the resolution supports the use of those exemptions, and you can make that finding. And then the last thing are the conditions of approval that are included to address any future effects and of construction and operation. So staff believes that you can use the resolution as it's written and the findings as written and backed up by evidence to approve this project. And staff recommends that you adopt the resolution accordingly with the findings and with the conditions of approval.
And
If you have questions, I can.
and through the chair, my pardon here. Staff would like to suggest that one more condition be added, please, that the use permit be subject to annual review, and so that we maybe would bring back to you a report here next September on progress, or if there's been any violations, or how in keeping they are. So it's a suggested condition of approval that can or cannot be reflected in your motion this evening.
Is there any public comment?
Are there any public comments?
May I ask the applicant, have you read the conditions of approval and agree with them?
I did, and I did not understand all of it. However, I understood that I need to hire a civil engineer for the septic disposal. And then you added a yearly review if we are in compliance. And what else? I tried to read and understand all of it, but there's nothing here that I need to do further.
I can help with that.
Yeah.
if I may.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Any other public, any other public comment?
And the conditions, what is required to perform going on is what is listed in the conditions of approval. And, moving on, if this is approved, I can help you with that outside of,
That's a
Yes,
good
ma'am.
idea.
but
Mhm.
I can explain at that time,
Mhm.
Okay.
Is that
If-
satisfactory?
if that's.
That's
That you'll
satisfactory.
consult with Michael, and he'll go through it with you so that you understand fully.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Are there any further public comments? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. Excuse me, the commission. Gentlemen?
I guess just one clarification on the additional condition that you proposed to have. And so, annual review, is that typical timing of the inspection that's done by the state is an annual inspection? I'm just wondering, what drives that annual review?
You know, I think we,
on that.
if we find there's a regular rhythm, such as an annual inspection from the healthcare facility oversight people, then we would follow that. We wouldn't certainly proceed it or anything like that, but it would be a report to you on their status of compliance with codes.
We have an additional, person wishing to speak.
I can't hear you, Ariel.
We have an additional person wishing to speak.
Oh, very good.
I'm unmuting you. Please state your name and, county of residence. John Vukovic, with your right.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. I really don't have a comment on this particular, place. I was just coming online to try to get familiar with the, Zoom procedure. And, I'm not seeing any of the planning commission people talking. All I'm seeing is a map. And I'm happy to see that you recognized that I clicked on that thing, so that works. So that's all. I have no comment on what was spoken about. I had a hard time understanding what was said because the audio is not that clear. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for participating. It does take a bit of work. Back to the commission?
I got how about that additional yearly review? Should that be brought to the planning commission, could be done in-house with the planning? And if there's issues, then so we don't waste a lot of time coming back to the planning commission every year?
Oh, I see. You're saying that you want the staff to assure that they've done an annual touch base.
Yes.
And if we find that anything has risen needing your attention, that we do it in that manner?
That's right.
That,
Yeah.
that,
That's fine.
the condition can absolutely reflect your language. That would be included in a motion, sure.
Yeah, that would be sensible. Do we have any further comments from the commission? Can we have a motion to approve or disapprove?
I make a motion to approve use permit 1173 -17 on 1370 Seneca Road, adult resident care expansion, with the condition of, as you stated,
Of an
rewarded
annual administrative review.
and administrative review.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed. Congratulations. 5-0.
Who was the second? Eggers? Okay, thank you.
And thank you for all your patience.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Yeah.
the work you're doing.
Yeah. Maybe, Mr. Kelly, you could meet with the applicant in the lobby as they depart. Thank you.
If you are, if you would like to get up.
Going back to Jamila, or we?
Yep, here she is.
Is Jamila?
Mila has arrived.
All
Jamila
right.
has arrived. Let's let her
Are you
get set up.
prepared to go over the housing element?
Yes, good evening, Planning Commission, staff, and members of the public. Tonight, I will be going over some just updates with our amendments to our affordable housing ordinance.
Mhm.
So it's not necessarily specifically the housing element, but more so the affordable housing ordinance. So as staff, we have developed and have been working with an ad hoc committee. We've been working with the ad hoc committee for a little bit over a year now, and we've been analyzing and reviewing our affordable housing ordinance to determine ways that we can be able to make amendments that can be of value and of ease, so when individuals do come and want to review the ordinance, that it's a little bit more clear and it provides some more expansion to ideas that our committee has been having. So in winter of 2019, so about October, November, we did hire a consultant, Venanza Wolf consultant firm, to be able to help us with an affordable housing gap analysis, and then in turn conducting a feasibility analysis. So the reason for this consultant and the reason for this study is, if you are not aware, in the affordable housing ordinance, it doesn't have an in lieu fee option with an amount. So part of the reason for this consultant was to be able to help review an analysis so that we can be able to develop that in lieu fee, but then in turn be able to have a consultant help us with any amendments that we had and ideas that we had as well. So and we have been working with our consultant, even though COVID has been a little bit difficult to be meeting as an ad hoc committee, and I will be getting that to that at the end of my discussion. Some things that we have proposed. Some things that we have proposed and some examples to the amendments include expanding rental options. So that's something that's not quite specific in the ordinance. It doesn't necessarily lead to, or when reading it, very clear and distinct as an option for that. Another proposed example is decreasing expectations for minimum number of bedrooms. So right now it does give a specific, okay, if you have this number of units, we want this number of bedrooms related to that. Some items that we are also considering is minimum project size, so our minimum house size basically, and determining if we need to have minimums at all. Another one is affordability targets. So in terms of that, not only expanding affordability options, but also expanding rental plus home ownership options so that they could be included in both. Because when you read the ordinance now, it doesn't necessarily give that clear option. So we want to be able to have it be clear and concise for individuals reading it. Another one is terms of affordability for rentals. So that's something that we still need to consider and discuss within our ad hoc. One thing listed now is, again, just back to home ownership. So with our affordability ordinance, it does have a term of 30 years, meaning that the homeowner is expected to abide by the resale restrictions for that entire 30 years. So one thing that we will need to discuss as an ad hoc is deciding and determining and proposing basically what they think is an adequate time limit for rental options. So as you know, and if everything now with face masks and COVID has really delayed our ability to complete and provide a full report to not just our ad hoc, but to the Planning Commission. So myself and staff have been continuing to work with our consultant. So we have been in communications. It's not like work has been halted, thankfully. It's just that at this time, our ad hoc has been halted. So what I will be doing and sending out to all of our ad hoc members, members of the public who have been attending, and anyone else interested in participating in our ad hoc, is I will be sending, at least to the ad hoc members, a list of available dates and times of when we can be able to meet again. So I apologize, just with our direction, ad hocs were deemed not a priority during the COVID time, or especially during the beginning. So I will be sending out notices to all on emails, requesting those times, asking what is the best available, for your schedule, especially anything that has changed. In addition to, along with that, one thing that we've added, not just with our consultant having and completing, or at least working on the draft for the affordable housing gap analysis and the feasibility study, is we have also added and requested our consultant to develop a housing strategy. So that would be able to develop a comprehensive way that San Benito County can be able to develop, and not just necessarily develop with new housing units, but how can we be able to strategize having more affordable units within our county. So even if it's acquiring a rental space or acquiring a development land, how we can be able to incorporate our housing element, incorporate our affordable housing ordinance, and be able to have a more comprehensive options for individuals within our community. So I just want to let you know that we will now be meeting. I'm hoping to develop a date in September. And then ultimately, I still would like the little bit of a changed timeline, but I still would like to present everything to Planning Commission in the late fall. So hopefully by October, November, we can be able to provide all of the amendments, see your suggestions, and then ultimately bring it to the Board of Supervisors for review and approval. So I'm not sure if there's any other questions, any other concerns that I can be able to develop as we are going to be reconvening in September.
Thank you, Jamila.
Of course.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Jamila?
No questions, just that I think that timeline works, and we'll make ourselves available, those that are part of the ad hoc committee, to meet us as quickly as possible. But
Of course.
I think having those proposals come back to the Planning Commission in October is probably the earliest we can do, but let's try to hit that date.
Definitely, and I do want to let you know that we have been working with our consultant. So work hasn't stopped necessarily, even though our ad hoc hasn't been able to convene. But now we would really like your input so that I don't decide for you, right? So that there's more transparency in where we're moving and getting your input as well. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
I have a question, Jamila. As you're working through this revision of the housing element, when we're looking at new developments and approvals there, how is that, how should we keep in mind the future decisions that are coming? Or is that a moot point? Is that more a question for legal, or?
I was going to direct it to legal, just in the sense that, what the ordinance as written now is something that we do have to review. But I don't know if our county council would have a more precise answer.
Let me take a
related.
crack at it. I might ask for a little more clarification on your question, Madam Chair, but broadly, we in the RMA division, and I think for the community as a whole, we're trying to gather and assemble as many tools and options as we can to approach affordable housing. Something that works for developers, that works for the community, and we really are hoping for, you know, fewer and fewer limitations on that, whether they be financial or bureaucratic. We're gonna try to have if you're at a restaurant, we're gonna try to have a bunch of options to select from, where developers and the county can work together for an affordable housing plan that might work in different neighborhoods. So we're looking for a broad tool set. But I think you also asked is, you know, how should you, if you make a decision today, how does that characterize future
Mm-hmm.
decisions? Is that what?
Correct.
This is Harry Member Jones, maybe I can help answer that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you all hear me?
Thank you, Director.
Yes, wherever you are.
Hi.
It's like Oz.
We're moving ahead with the revisions and bringing a revised ordinance that certainly works for the whole community. I think whatever actions you have in front of you now are based on what the rules are today. You have a very good example today with the project that's being proposed of a very creative solution that takes sort of the best of both the in-lieu fee options and providing some housing on site. You'll hear about that later. But I would say we just continue on and do the something that is close to what we have envisioned before, but again, be creative. So I don't think there's anything else special that we would have to do beyond what you'll see tonight.
Thank you for the clarification, Harry. So shall we move on?
And I look forward to seeing you all soon. It's been a really long time, so I'm looking forward to hearing your opinions and being able to meet again. It's been a little too long, so thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Jamila, before you leave,
Yep.
Is there any public comment on this issue right now, this presentation?
None via Zoom.
Okay. Seeing none, thank you very much, Jamila, for all your work. Okay.
All right, with that, Madam Chair, we are to the last item of the evening, public hearing for zone change and vesting tentative subdivision map. This will be presented by Planner Darrell Boyd via Zoom.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, I think that your earphones work well.
Because of COVID, I'm coming to you live from unincorporated Morgan Hill, via Zoom. So I have a few slides that I want to run through for you, about 20 slides. I'm going to try to distill a lot of information. There's a lot of information you can provide it with about this project. And so I'm going to try to distill that down and give you highlights, as it were. But I think first I just want to thank all of you for agreeing to conduct another special public hearing so that this project can continue to move forward through the process. So, Madam Chair, do you see on the screen my first slide?
Yes. 213
Okay.
Enterprise Road.
So I'm gonna take off here now. With this project located at 2013 Enterprise Road, and for a vesting tentative subdivision map, there's also some code amendments to the planned development combining district, and the project also includes a rezoning of the site. This is the project vicinity. From say, the 30,000 foot level, so to speak. The site's outlined in yellow here on the aerial photo, and so this is our site here. It's about 50 acres, just under 50 acres. Our plan is residential mixed.
general plan designation was applied in 2015 when the general plan, the 2035 general plan update was adopted. The general plan land use designation was changed. The current zoning is rural residential. That pre-exists the plan update. It was not changed after the general plan was changed. And site was currently used for, there was a former orchard, some of you may know, up here in this lower part of the site that's no longer there. The upper part of the site tends to be more grasslands and grazing land. There is an existing seismic safety zone that runs along this ridge line here that creeps into the edge of the site. And then the site generally slopes from north to south. So this is Enterprise Road here, Inland Highway 25 here, just to get you oriented. This is Quail Ridge Way is here, Hollow Division here. The site generally slopes from south to the north, with the low points being along Enterprise Road. I've included this exhibit because I like the way it shows the topography of the site, and the topography of the site's important because of how the project is designed, and we'll illustrate that in a second. Again, and this slide also gives you some drainage information as well. The reason I included it is really for the topo. You see that existing ridge line that runs along here, and so there's a fairly good slopes into the site this way. There's a relatively flat area here. There's fairly good drop in elevation through here. You end up with another bench area here and some drop in slope, and then with a flatter portion down here. There is a ridge that runs along here, sort of breaks with the drainage going both to the east and to the west. This is a sort of an oblique angle. It shows the site again from north to south. So this is Enterprise Road along the site frontage here. The existing access to the site is right here. And you'll note that that existing access shared not only by this site, it also provides the access to existing single-family detached residential units that exist along this ridge line. There's drainage basin over here. Again, this is the existing residential subdivision that we'll talk a little bit more about momentarily. And this starts to give you yet another visual sense of sort of the flatter area here and how the site slopes and drains down to Enterprise Road. This is a shot from Enterprise Road looking sort of to the southeast. This is the existing site access here. You can see how it starts to run up the hill. This photo gives you a sense of the elevation change from through line here and down across the site, and it gives you a sense on the horizon of how the site slopes up towards the south. So as I said, the proposed project includes a vesting tentative subdivision map. There's also this code amendment to the land unit development combining district zoning change. I want to touch a little bit about parkland dedication, affordable housing, and then just a moment on the CEQA for the project. So this is the site plan, and again, the site plan is attached to the staff report in a pack that was included. It's available online for those of you listening from home. And so this is oriented, the site plan is oriented to the north. So Enterprise Road, of course, is along here. The subdivision proposes 149 single-family detached lots. The overall average lot size of the lots is just under 9,000 square feet. However, the range of lot sizes runs from about 4,500, a little over 16,000 square feet. So there's quite a variety in terms of lot sizes within the project. The project's proposed by the applicant to be constructed in 4 phases. So it would begin, first phase would begin along the lower part of the site off Enterprise, and you can see the phase lines are these sort of gray lines that run through. So that's a phase, this is a phase, and then the fourth phase would be in the southeasterly corner. Project has provided sewer and water by Sunny Slope County Water District, so there's both sewer and water available. The reason that that's important is if there is public water and sewer available, general plan and the zoning both look for bit of an increase in density to take advantage of those public services. Project includes complete streets, and by that we mean that the streets will include curb, gutter, sidewalks, street trees, street lighting, and so forth. And so, complete streets. Project includes about 3.84 acres of parkland that would be dedicated and improved by applicant. There is a proposed about an acre and a half park that would be here, and then a trail that would connect from the sidewalk that would run along the base of that of this ridgeline, this slope that would run down and connect to Enterprise Road. The reason why I wanted to show you the topography is illustrated in the way the site plan is designed, because the site plan is really trying to have the street network be designed in such a way that it works with the natural contours that are existing out there. And so you see the streets running along the existing contours, and granted there's going to need to be some grading of the site, is trying to work with the existing topography of the site. This area of the site down here needs to be retained for storm drainage basins, and then as we said, the seismic safety area, there's a setback area that's required along this edge over here, so that's why street setback, there's a no-build zone that would be along there and so forth, and so that's why it makes sense for there to be a trail, which is essentially like an expanded sidewalk, if you will, would run along that edge of the project. Last point I wanted to make from this slide is that project would be required to annex to the countywide CFD for maintenance in the long run. So the site includes a rezoning, and the rezoning in this case is to residential mixed, which is RM for short, and then the planned unit development companion district. Reason that the rezoning to RM is required is that the existing rural residential project, or I'm sorry, the existing rural residential zoning not allow project as it's designed because of the minimum lot requirements, setback requirements, and so forth. And so this project doesn't work under the rural residential. And in addition, the rural residential zoning district really isn't consistent with the intents and purposes of the residential mixed general plan land use designation. And so the rural residential needed to be changed to some other district. Residential mixed districts seem to work best in terms of the existing conventional districts. However, we realized that even the residential mixed wasn't going to do it for the project, to implement the project. And so staff and the applicant looked at using the planned unit development combining district, and in looking at that, we realized that even that district had limitations for what the project was trying to achieve, and actually seemed existing PUD district seems overly restricted in terms of being able to be really utilized as a planning tool. And so there's this proposal to amend PUD combining district. And with the addition of the PUD to the RM district as the basis zone, we're able to provide some variability, flexibility, and setbacks and so forth, and I'll illustrate here in a moment with regard to the existing interface with existing residential subdivisions. I mentioned the lot sizes before. The overall project density, that's another reason for utilizing the PUD district in this case. It's that it allows for project density to be reduced from what would otherwise be required. If the project had gone with just purely residential mixed, the lot sizes would have been smaller, and the number of units and the overall density of the project would have been higher. And so by combining the RM with the PUD, we're project's able to come up with about a 5 unit to acre density on the net. And as we said, this was all intended to try to help the applicant achieve his desired site design, which was trying to work with the existing site conditions. In terms of the PUD code amendment, and we included the draft code language, and hopefully you all received a little bit earlier for the meeting later this afternoon, a track changes version of the code amendment. Essentially, proposed PUD code amendment is trying to update that district so that it better reflects the 2035 general plan goals and policies. It will allow for increased flexibility and utility. It gives a little more leeway in terms of setbacks. The proposed code actually allows for what's currently a more standard street width, which is 56 feet right of way. And then also will allow for the PUD changes, will allow not only this project, but other projects as well to have a good variety of housing types within a subdivision. And in this case, it's really this wide variation, wide variety of lot sizes from 4,500 to over 16,000. Code amendment, it's not really applicable for this project. The code amendment will implement the mixed-use development policies that were included in the 2035 general plan, particularly with regard to implementing the residential mixed general plan designation and the commercial neighborhood designations, which both allow for like a commercial residential project. And then also just updating the code, the PUD code, brings it more current with existing planning practices for this type of a zoning district. Now I want to jump a little bit to trying to illustrate the benefits of the PUD. So this is a view of the site looking towards the west. So Enterprise Road would be to the right side of your screen. This is Quail Ridge Way coming in here. So this is the south edge of the site. There's of course the existing residential subdivision that borders the project along this edge. And one of the things that applicant wanted to do, and I think the neighbors also, existing residents were concerned about, was how the setbacks and the heights and of the units, the new units that would be proposed along this edge. And so this next exhibit tries to illustrate proposed lotting plan. So the existing is here, and of course this is the proposed lotting plan. And so one good thing about this design is it's providing a rear yard to rear yard interface. That's always a good thing in a situation like this from a design standpoint. There is some grade elevation along this edge with existing units. So what the developers propose to do, and what we're able to do by using the PUD, combining the PUD with the residential mixed use zone, is for these, I'm sorry, I apologize. For these lots along here, the applicant has agreed to limit their heights to single story. We've also adjusted the setbacks so that the minimum rear yard setback is increased from 20 feet to 25 feet. And we're able to do that because we reduced the front setbacks of these lots to 15. So that the intent is that will allow the units to push forward on the lot and provide a little more separation from these existing rear yards and units in Hollow and Oak Creek subdivision. We've also, the applicants also done the best to try to have the pad elevations, the final grade of these lots, not be any higher than lots that exist over here. And that's been achieved to the greatest extent, although in Hall, the project engineer can probably speak to this better than I can, but there is one or two lots on this end that are a little, it's just not, engineering constraints just don't allow those to be at the same elevation because of fairly substantial grade break happens here, and these lots sit really, really low. So in order to get the drainage and the streets and so forth toward the grades here, it's not possible to get them to that. But again, the point with this is that by using PUD combining district, we're able to impose conditions on this project so that the single story height limit on these lots is included. Otherwise, it would be 35 feet, 60 stories. Now I can move quickly to the parks. So this is a conceptual landscape plan. This is showing the drainage basin area over here. It's really not going to be very usable in terms of open space, but it is an open space element visually. This is showing along here the proposed trail and the park. This corner of the project site, there's proposing bocce ball courts and so forth. The park, this is just a shot from the end looking west from the end of Terminus Quail Ridge Way. Park would sit sort of in this corner over here, is where the 1.5 acre park would be. This is just a blow up of conceptual park plan in terms of what they're intending to show or improve, how they would improve the 1.5 acre park area there. And then just so the Planning Commission knows, we are going to be reviewing this with the Parks and Rec Commission next Wednesday. They're having a special meeting for us to review this proposed park plan with them to get their comments on it. The project is required, and this is again in the staff report, the project's required to provide about 2.235 acres of parkland with the trail and the park area. The project's around 3.84 acres. I need to touch on Quail Ridge Way. When we circulated the initial study, mitigated negative declaration back in May, probably the one comment that we heard most from the neighborhood out there was concern and actual opposition to having this connection, this existing substreet, continue into new subdivision. And so in the staff report shows the proposal, a sketch of a proposal that would restrict this from being a full street access and would have it be more pedestrian bicycle connected with some type of emergency vehicle access. And so right now, that's the RMA recommendation to the Planning Commission is to not have this be a full street connection. But I wanted to make sure that you saw aerials of this because I know Battalion Chief Gola, I think, is in the audience there and is probably going to speak to this issue some more. So I wanted to make sure you had visuals of it. So this is just ground level, street level view of that stub street. And one other comment I would make about this is that normally the design details of how this would all have worked out with the final improvement plans. And so whichever way it ends up, whether the commission wants it to be a full street connection or you want it to be restricted access, there'll need to be some design details worked out in either case for how this will transition. But in any case, this is actually phase 4 of the project. The last phase of the project would be up to here. They're all, just FYI, All right, now affordable housing, the inclusionary requirement for this project based on 149 units would be 23 units. And I think as Recommender Janice mentioned, the applicant is proposing a hybrid program. Code allows for alternate means of satisfying housing requirements. And in this case, the applicant, there's actually, say, three different doors that a project comes through to satisfy the affordable housing requirement. One is to build on-site units for sale. Another is to build provisions for construction of off-site units. And then the third door is the use of in lieu fees. And so in this particular case, the applicant is proposing to come in through the in lieu fee door, but want to use the in lieu fees, and in this case, they're proposing $4,500 for each of the market rate units. It results in just a little under $600,000. We want to use those in lieu fees for our establish a down payment assistance program. The details of that yet to be worked out, but basically the net result is it would be a payment assistance program. And then the project, the applicant, is proposing to build on-site 16 for sale units that would be available restricted for availability to moderate income users. And moderate income level is 80 to 120% of the area median, and a few more details on that. I'm sure Jamila can help us with that. And then the project's also proposing to construct 7 accessory dwelling units that would be restricted for rent, very low and low income levels. And so the affordable housing program achieves 23 units and provides this down payment assistance program. And I think one of the attractive features of this proposal from the RMA staff standpoint is that it results in the construction of units. It's not just somebody writing a check that may not be used right away. It's actually trying to build units and sell units on site. One of the comments might be that, well, this project isn't doing perhaps enough for very low and low income level residents, but it's extremely difficult as somebody who's done a lot of work over the years on affordable housing projects. It's extremely difficult to build a project with 4 sale units that can target to work that can be financially feasible for very low and low. And I think that that's partly what Camilla was alluding to in her presentation, is that right now the inclusionary code doesn't really speak very well, or doesn't really take account of that fact, because most jurisdictions would achieve their very low and low requirements with some sort of a rental program. It's just hard to construct for sale units from very low and low. But again, the deal points are specified more in the resolution and in the staff report, and those deal points are intended to be the basis for further negotiation when the actual housing agreement has to be prepared before the final map is deployed. With regard to CEQA, there was an initial study and an MNP prepared and circulated. We actually did an extra long circulation because of a bit of COVID confusion. Some of the notices didn't get out right away, so I think instead of doing the minimum 20 days, we did, I think, 40 or 45 days review. There were public comments that were received. Those comments are captured in the final initial study, making it a negative declaration document that's also attached to the staff report. And that conclusions of all of the analysis, including the response to those comments, represents the county's independent judgment and analysis. The net result is that with the mitigation measures that are included as conditions of approval against the project wouldn't result in any significant impact on the environment, and then an EIR, preparation of an EIR is required in this case because the significant impacts are mitigated to a significant level. So in summary, Madam Chair, staff believes the project conforms to and implements the general plan with the code amendment to the PUD district and the rezoning of the site to RMPUD subdivision would be consistent with the zoning regulations. The project does comply with CEQA. As I said, the mitigation measures are included as conditions. Staff thinks the project meets the park and vacation requirements and also satisfies the affordable housing requirements. And so staff's recommending you consider approve the negative declaration. There's a draft resolution from you to the Board of Supervisors recommending that the board approve the Benito development and district code amendments, as well as the zoning map change for the site to residential mixed PUD. And then finally, that commission resolution to approve the vesting tentative map with requisite findings that are included in the draft resolution and standard and special conditions as recommended by staff. So with that, Madam Chair, we're happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Boyd. Is there any public comment? If you filled out a form to hand in for public comment?
And does the applicant want to speak as well?
Excuse me?
Does the applicant want to speak as
Oh,
well?
of course. Is the applicant here? And would you like to speak?
Sure, after, I think
Mhm. Thank you.
speak first.
Yeah.
Madam Chair and fellow commissioners, my name is Charlie Bedolla. I am your fire marshal. So thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I've brought also my fire chief with this. So this project right here, this project was a very well-planned, developed project. You know, I know the developers, the engineers, and the planners put in a lot of work, and I like the way that this project flows. This project flows nicely. It naturally controls traffic, the way it's planned out, so I like the way it is. Just keep in mind that in the general plan states that we have connectivity to the streets in these developments, and the Quail Hollow and the Oak Creek was developed with connectivity, and I'm sure that was approved with the connectivity where it was at up there. We have numerous projects where we have had them connected through streets. I mean, just some examples of it. Fairview Corners, which did come up here, we did have them connect up some roadways. El Cerro was a roadway that we connected through. Bonneview was a road that we connected through. Trinity to El Camino de Vida was another project. Santana Ranch has connectivity. Santana Ranch Drive, south to the dead end, out to there, so that's built for connectivity. Plus on Santana Ranch, Castle Rock Drive is also built for the future for connectivity. Roberts Ranch, which was made around there also by the Cielo Vista, was made for connectivity. The West of Fairview project, those connect up together to get that flow of traffic. The Kuiper Homes over on Buena Vista was built and connected over on West Side Road on the back road for connectivity. You gotta remember, the fire department, public safety is our essential priority, our essential duty and #1 priority. The fire chief and I just spent, actually I went with the fire chief for the last 2 weeks. We were up at the SCU complex fire in Santa Clara County, and we were in there dealing with 7 counties that had to evacuate people. So that's where this concerns us on this project, you know. Public safety is essential, our number one priority, and we do need to make sure that we do have the flow in case of an emergency. This project is built in the WUI, the Wild Urban Interface area. It is in that wind tunnel right there where the wind would come up there, and it would drive in there. If we look at the project, Daryl, do you want to pull up that overall map, please? Is he still there, or has he gone?
Sure, I need sure the team with me. So you want the site plan, Charlie?
Yeah, at least this one. Can I get this one up here?
Yeah, please. Hang on, bear with me, Charlie. Is this the one you mean?
Sure, that one. Can you make that one bigger, please?
I lost it.
It crashed.
It says it's at the end of slideshow, you gotta click back.
Have to click what, stop?
It's saying you're at the end of slideshow.
Oh,
Instead of going to the slide, you went to the end. I'm not sure why.
all right, let me try again. It come up now?
Maybe try from the beginning and then just click the couple slides.
Try Control F5.
Yeah, I'll do that.
I think we could work with that.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I'm having challenges.
So on that map, there is 4 phases. There's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. On phase 2, 3, and 4, on the most western part of that phase, there's 96 homes out of this 149 home project that would have to get bottlenecked out of the southern entrance to that. So if there was an incident right there, they'd only be, that we'd have to bottleneck 96 residents out of the most southern part of it. And out of that, there's 17 that would be also bottlenecking in there for a total of 113 trying to get out that southern exit. If we split that phase 1, there's an additional 36 units that would use the, I would say, the northern exit on there. So if we look at it, in the fire code, it states in the adopted fire code that was adopted for 2019, 503.1.2, additional access. The fire code official is authorized to require more than one fire apparatus access road based on the potential for impairment of a single road by vehicle congestion, condition of terrain, climatic conditions, or other factors that could limit access. 503.2.2 lists the authority. The fire code official shall have the authority to require or permit modifications to the required access widths where they are inadequate for fire rescue operations or where necessary to meet the public safety objectives of the jurisdiction. 503.4, obstruction of fire apparatus access roads. Fire apparatus access roads shall not be obstructed in any manner, including the parking of vehicles, the minimum widths, and the clearances established in sections 503.2.1 and 503.2.2 shall be maintained at all times. So that's basically no traffic calming devices. 503.4.1 talks about traffic calming devices. Traffic calming devices shall be prohibited unless approved by the fire code official. That's speed humps, speed bumps, and we do see a lot of that stuff right now. The good thing is we've been here with the contract for the last 5-6 years, and we're trying to stay consistent to the code. So before stuff has gotten through there and it hasn't been caught before, and we keep hearing that hasn't happened before, why are we doing it now? Well, we're staying consistent with the projects that we do have in there, and we are looking out for the best of the community. Required gate or barricades. The fire code official is authorized to require the installation and maintenance of gates or other approved barricades across fire apparatus access roads, trails, or other access ways, not including public streets, alleys, or highways. This is a public street. So it doesn't say anything about, the code doesn't allow anything about emergency vehicle access that's locked. We gotta understand, if you have an emergency vehicle access that's locked, when the emergency does happen, there's gonna be nobody to unlock that gate, and people are gonna be trapped into that gate and not gonna be able to get out because we're gonna be taking care of the emergency. So that's why we say full access. What we can do is say, we'll accept 20 foot, that's the minimum, fire access road with bulb outs and a stop sign to help curb the traffic. That would be allowable for that. You gotta understand, that whole development for Quail Hollow and Oak Creek is all unsprinklered. So the new development will be sprinklered, but this is to benefit both developments for their access and for their access to escape in case of emergency. And a lot of times, if there's an emergency, we'll have a hard time trying to get in from all the people trying to get out. And there's been numerous times where our engines have been stuck trying to gain access into a incident because everyone's trying to evacuate. So we're looking out for the best of the community on this part right here. And that's all I have to say. Do you have? No. Thank you, I appreciate that. So my recommendation is we approve this really nice, free-flowing project with connectivity. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bedolla.
I'll spray it
Commissioners,
down.
did you have any questions for the chief?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ann Hall. I'm with San Benito Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I really don't have any questions to bring up. We are happy with the conditions of approval and happy with the conclusion we've come to with staff over time getting these put together. But I wanted to say we're here to answer any questions that you may have. I'm here for any technical questions. The applicant's here if you had any specific questions for them. And just to slightly piggyback on what the fire chief said, the way the map is presented to you, it shows the connection going through, and it also shows an alternative. And I think we just will need some direction from the planning commission as to how that's gonna go. But in the meantime, do you have any questions for us?
And do you happen to know how wide the trail is?
We've shown it, oh shoot, it's at least 12 feet. It might be wider, but I'm gonna say 12, Valerie, just to be safe.
And is it shaded?
Yes,
Appeared
we
to
have
have
plantings
trees.
along it, although we're looking at having native plantings along in there, which are not, we'll have some oak trees in there, but it's gonna take a little time for it to be shaded because we'll be planting them, but that's the intent.
So the intention is to
Yes.
plant? Mhm. And it'll be paved or crushed?
DG. Just
Fine.
crushed rock.
Mhm. Commissioners?
No, I like that connectivity on Quail Hollow, even the road, the width of it. So, like I said, people get out, because you restrict it, you only got, you got that access and you got two more on the other end. So it'd be a lot of traffic trying to get out in case of emergency. I do like the road being the full width, the way it's drawn.
Mhm.
No questions for me right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Hall.
We have four, public speakers, via Zoom.
Thank you.
John Yukovich, we're gonna, unmute you.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Darrell Boyd for his presentation. That was very well done, and for the Planning Commission to afford this opportunity to participate. My concerns, I happen to live on Quail Ridge Way, okay? And my concerns are the impact, the future impact on my street, and just local traffic issues in general, and what is being planned. Now, we have this subdivision being planned, and we have that huge thing going on from Fair Oaks and Enterprise. And if you look at the total here, we're looking at what, over 800, 900 residents, and with maybe 2 cars per resident at minimum, we're gonna have a lot of traffic on what we have now as on Enterprise and Highway 25. And so nothing has been mentioned about infrastructure here, about what are we gonna do to control traffic, to be able to continue the flow of traffic in a normal manner. With all these people coming in, it's already bad, it's gonna be worse. In this particular subdivision that was presented, there are the entrance and exit areas are really two off of Enterprise, and then the connection into Quail Ridge Way. And I sympathize with the Fire Chief Bedolla. I understand emergencies, and I understand all that. But I think something can be worked out where that connection on Quail Ridge Way could be made possible for emergency vehicles and pedestrian and bikes, and still restrict traffic from having to drive through. So my biggest concern is the impact of all this traffic and everything on our area, and I don't hear anything in this whole presentation about what's going to be done about that. And maybe the entrance and exit plan for this development has got to be considered again and maybe changed a little bit. But right now, you know, we got a 2-lane road on Enterprise and a 2-lane road on 25, a 2-lane road on Fairview, and it's not good. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not against the guy trying to develop his property and do a development. That's fine, that's great, but I think the plan has got to be all encompassing. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Next speaker, Samia Rachel. You've been
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So a few concerns that I have, I agree with John as far as traffic issues. We're talking about hazards and the fire department being on here. We already have a major bottleneck at Enterprise and Airlines. Is anything being done about that to take care of all of the additional traffic problems? Same thing, I'm also a resident of Quail Ridge Way. Our property values go down as soon as that opens up for public traffic. It causes a lot of traffic in our neighborhood, and I can tell you, I can speak for everyone in Quail Hollow and Oak Creek, we don't want that going through. So we'd like to figure out how we can have that be where it is pedestrian and bicycle access and we don't have cars coming through our neighborhood. As it is now, we have two entrances to Quail Hollow and Oak Creek, and we have about 200 homes in here. So as far as emergency access, we're fine with what we have now. Having that third entrance to that new subdivision doesn't seem to make sense that that is necessary as far as the traffic goes, other than emergency vehicles. Locked gates isn't necessary. We just want to make sure that there is not public street access going through that. A couple of other questions I have is when I was reading through the report, I noticed not only PUD, but it mentioned multi-residential. And I don't know if I read that incorrectly. I'd like to find out, is the zoning change going to allow for multi-residential? Is the PUD status to be for homeowners association, or are they planning on putting in smaller units, or they're going to be condos or townhomes or something for that lower income? In regards to the 7 units that are deed restricted, is that the developer not wanting to pay $4,500 additional per lot?
Ma'am,
Or,
I have to interrupt you, that your time limit is up. But your questions have been heard, and perhaps there will be answers coming from comments later. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Nancy Burton. I'm unmuting you.
can you hear me okay?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, great. So I live on Oak Creek Drive, and this development will very much affect both my view from the back of my house, as well as if that street is allowed to open up at Quail Ridge, it will definitely impact my traffic, because people will come through the Oak Creek entrance straight up and into their development. So I paid a premium for my home for the reasons of quiet street and also some of my view. I guess the view is what it is, and it's a shame, but that's what it is. Back to what Sammy was actually going to start asking about were these 7 ADUs. So I'd like to know what kind of units these are for the low and very low income, and where are they on the map in terms of where they're going to be located. And another question, how large are the houses that are planning to be put in there? What is the minimum square footage? And are the smaller homes or the lower or very low income, those small looking lots along the edge of our community at Oak Creek? So I'd like to understand a little bit better on where some of those things are planned for. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, Olga, I'm unmuting you.
Excellent, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. So I live just a couple doors down on Quail Ridge Way from the proposed access, and I have just 2 comments with regards to wanting to keep that as a gated or a lock gate for emergency access only. From a standpoint of when we purchased this house about 10 years ago, we were told at the time that that would be emergency access only and not a full road. Granted, maybe the realtor may have told us incorrectly, but that was our understanding when we purchased this home. Second, I don't think it would be behoove, based on the fire chief's discussion of, so eloquently talking about needing access for his 149, or for the 149 planned unit developments there, for the two roads that are part of the access of this project. We have more homes than 149 in our 2 developments between Oak Creek and Quail Hollow, and we only have 2 access roads. So therefore, adding more to our situation would make it only worse than what the project next door would have, because they have less homes and the same amount of access to and from. And third, as far as cost of the road upkeep, I would want to make sure that if it does become a full access, then there is funds that are contributed from that project to our CSA, so that will help keep our roads, upkeep on the roads, because we know there'll be additional wear and tear from that. So those are my comments, and the only last thing I'll say is, you know, from an emergency access point, I get that, you know, the fire department, your team, and police, et cetera, will need to focus on the emergency at hand, but they can quickly and easily open any gate to access as needed, just as well as anything else in regards to our two entrances to all the homes that we have in our development. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Our next speaker is Jeanette Campbell. I'm unmuting you.
Hi, can you guys hear me? This is Jeanette and Scott Campbell.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I've been a firefighter for the city of a major metropolitan city for 25 years. And as far as the chief is concerned about gaining emergency access with his fire apparatus, there's multiple areas where we respond to that have only fire department access, as far as gates, controlled areas that he can only access. And if we do open up that area to all those homes, going to not only create probably more of an emergency access if they need to get up there, but the congestion alone from all those homes, and then that one lady states that they're going to use Oak Creek Road to gain access to their home, it can be a potential disaster. And another thing, if he's so concerned about wind tunnel effect coming through those homes, why are we even building out there in the first place? It doesn't make sense. So if they're going to put a gate there, have the fire department have access, the police department or the sheriff's department have access with the gate code or whatever. But to open it up would be a complete disaster for this area. I mean, we already have cars that speed down Quail Ridge way from out of town. Lord knows where they're coming from. If you put all these other people in these homes, it's just gonna, I don't know, it's gonna bring the complete destruction of this area down. Thank you very much for listening to me. Officer Fire Department does a very outstanding job, as well as the San Benito County Sheriff. So thank you very much for your service.
Thank you very much. Next.
Our next speaker, Bill Lee. I'm unmuting you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, I just, as a 30-plus year resident of San Benito County, I just wanted to go on record and say how much I support this project. I think it's been very well thought out, very well designed, very comprehensive. I do agree with Chief Bedoya about the circulation, and I know that's not necessarily popular with the adjacent neighbors, but the reality is we do need the streets to connect and circulate. It provides access not just for the emergency vehicles, but for bicycles, pedestrians, all kinds of things that allow communities to have connectivity, which is ultimately something I think that we want to have more of once COVID is done and we can actually connect with our neighbors. But overall, the applicant has designed this very well. Mr. Boyd gave a great presentation. And so I just wanted to go on record as a member of the community and neighbor that I am very much in support and hope the Planning Commission will approve this project tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further?
We do have one more. It's the same speaker, John Migovich. It's just one.
He's spoken already.
Okay. So then, no more on Zoom. I don't know if there's anyone in the audience.
You did say Yukovich, correct?
Yes.
Do we have any further public comment, or I believe that the owner had a comment? Applicant, thank you.
Ted Intervia, applicant. If you have any questions about anything, please let me know what you're asking. There is not multifamily out there. That's one of the questions that they said. That's not true at all. The lots are designed for moderate income, or what we call it workforce housing. We're designing them so that our local teachers, our local firemen, our local police department, our local government officials, or anybody can get affordability here by us doing the in lieu fee for the down payment. We've talked to the school district, Crystal Romano, excuse me, and that's how we came up with this project, about a 2-year process. Today, we had a conversation with Sean Tenenbaum with the high school. We talked to him about it, we assumed that he was gonna ask for us for more money, but after we talked to him about what we're trying to do for the teachers, he liked the project, and he said if you wanted to ask him any questions, he'd be happy to answer them. So if you have any questions about anything, please ask me now, and hopefully I can answer them. Okay?
Commissioners, do you have any questions of the applicant?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Now, are those going to be just for local residents? Are there going to be a deed restriction?
That's correct, 30-year deed restriction. It's just for local people that have local jobs. That's
And there's going to be a screening where they are residents, they're not just coming from out of town and.
No, they have to show us either a job that, or for instance, a 1-year signed resume with somebody, or somebody has to show that they're actually getting a job here for at least 1 year. That's the minimum. And
Okay,
this is meant for local people, not for somebody out of town. We unfortunately do all these things, and we get more people from out of town coming in. I want to do something for our community versus somebody else. And that's the reason for this moderate workforce housing hybrid. So that's how we came up with the idea. So if you have any more questions, please let me know if I can answer them.
Just a question, just through the chair. The in lieu fee, you came up with 4,500 times the 133 units.
Right.
And you mentioned you want to use that for down
payment,
payments.
closing costs, whatever, that's their money to use.
And are you thinking using it for the 16
Exactly,
medium?
for the 16, right.
Okay, got
We're
it.
speaking with several of the school district. The problem that most of them have is the down payment.
Mm-hmm.
They can afford it, but they can't come down with a down payment. So that's why the in lieu fee is so important, so we can give it back to them, basically, is what we're doing. Instead of taking the money and taking it to another project, let's use it here, where we can incorporate them within the community, so make them feel like they're part of the community, as opposed to being separate in another environment. So that when you come in there, you couldn't tell that whether it's a workforce housing or it's a normal house. And that's the idea. So that way they can feel, part of the community.
Got it. And my rough math says that's about $37,000 per unit
Exactly,
for the 16.
37,406.25.
There you go. You got the numbers. You got the numbers. And what's your expected price for these low?
It
or the
really
medium income?
depends upon the individual. Some of them will qualify for more, so then what we're trying to do is do 80 to 120% of the AMI, which is about 89.7 in Seminole County.
Yep.
So it goes, either you can come in with 4 people, you get less qualified. You come in with 5 people, basically, even though it's a 3-bedroom home or a 4-bedroom home, and you qualify for more. So it's really up to the individual. It's gonna be like a normal subdivision. You come in and you talk to a broker, and a mortgage broker, and they'll take care of you. We're not requiring the county to put a dime up for this thing. When it comes in, if they qualify, we'll give them a $100 filing fee for like Jamela to look at it, make the qualifications, are sure that that's what it's about. So the county is out at zero on this.
Yeah, I guess what I was trying to figure out is like, is that $37,000 plus extra?
Exactly.
Are you thinking that's going to be like a 10% kind of down payment? Is that 5%?
Depends.
Or
I
that's
guess
what I was just trying to understand in my mind.
It just depends. I think when we first started talking to Crystal about this, we were talking about they were doing signing bonuses for the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were thinking about maybe using some of the signing bonus. So that's how we came up with the idea of doing a in lieu fee for the down payment. So it could be additional, it could be, right now I think the minimum on the USDA is like 3%.
Mm-hmm.
So they can qualify for that stuff, but they can use the money any way they want to. I mean, as long as it's for a down payment or closing costs or financing charge, whatever they want to use for it, it's theirs.
And then one last question for me, and then I'll defer to the rest of the commission for this. But there's a question that came from one of the public comments or around, do we know where the 16 units are going to be placed in the development? And then
Yes.
what about the ADU units?
Yes.
And I
The
think I
six-
saw a map that may have had that, but I wasn't sure if that
It
was.
was the gray area, look on the map, there's a gray area you can look at, and actually there were 19 we had designed for, but actually it's 16 that we're using out of them. And see, that's the difficult part, because some of the lots, what we're doing is we're tiering the lots, so that way everybody has a view.
Mhm.
So if you were on the upper side of the street, you have a 2-story, on the other side, you have a single story. So to tell you whether I can put a 1,300 square foot on one side or 15, I don't know yet, but that's kind of the idea. So we can place them all along.
Yeah,
So-
so it'll be interspersed throughout the
Interspersed
community, so
throughout
it's
the-
not like, hey,
exactly.
this one street's
Nope.
gonna be all the
No.
16 units, it's not gonna be right up against the
No.
Oak Ridge neighborhood, okay,
So they're, like I said, and they're not multi-units, okay?
understood, thank you.
Any other thing?
Mr. Navarro, Commissioner Navarro, do you have any questions? Hearing you.
Sorry, with regards to, some of the traffic and that's coming in and the access points there, what are some of, I know we talked about some of the options there and like basically limiting the access for emergency and all, but what would be, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, yeah, what would be some ways to troubleshoot that? Just in terms of, taking, into consideration some of the community members and the neighbors, concerns.
We have no option, we don't really mind either option, whether you put the road in or not put the road in, that's really up to you. That's what we came here for. You guys decide how we're gonna do it and we'll do it. We don't have a preference one way or another, okay?
Not specifically for the applicant, but just for the public record, that I have spoken with a number of the residents in the adjacent subdivisions, as well as the younger intravia about the project. I don't have any questions for you, sir,
Okay.
but I will have questions later for the planner.
Anything else I can help with?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay,
What I'm hearing so far is that you started this development idea with the community in mind,
correct.
and that you have negotiated with and talked to our schools.
I haven't negotiated with anybody, we went over all the things that they're buttons, basically. This is what they need, my wife was a school teacher, I'm kind of partial to school teachers, so I looked at them first, and so we met with them first. We met with Crystal, and then we met with the superintendents, and then unfortunately Sean wasn't available at the time, so then we had a phone conversation with him today. And he likes the idea, because one of the problems we're having is recruiting good teachers to the community. Once you have a good teacher, it makes the schools better, it makes the community better, everybody has a better sense of, having a home versus a house. And that's what we want. We're trying to make a community here.
And am I hearing correctly that there's a 30-unit obligation?
30-year, correct.
30-unit year,
In
yes.
other words, if you sell it within the 30 years, you have to sell it back to someone, either, they would call it the workforce housing, essential people. And then there's teachers, and there's so on. I remember one of the conversation we had, Ray Espinoza, basically, he had an engineer wanting to come on, he couldn't find a house that was affordable for him. It fits that need also. So it fits all these needs. It's not just the school teachers, but there's other people that need this type of, moderate, affordable house, basically. So we call it workforce housing.
Commendable. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Interville.
Is public comment still open?
Yes.
Kelly Williams, I'm unmuting you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. We too live here on Quail Ridge Way. We moved here about 5 years ago, and one of our buying points was that was a closed road, and under the impression that it wouldn't open. the people that live on this side at the top of the subdivision, our home actually backs up to Donald Drive in Ridgemark. There is no traffic here due to the fact that the only people that come up here are people that live here. That's one of the main reasons we moved here. And to open up these two other ways and create a bunch of traffic and devalue our home is really upsetting most of the people that live up here. And we know and we understand that people need affordable housing and not opposed to that subdivision, but I really, really, really would like to have that be a public access locked space. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I do not show any more public comment via Zoom.
Are there any further public comments? Hearing none, I bring it back to the commission.
All right, public comment is closed at 7:35. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Through the chair to Mr. Boyd, what is the current requirement for that number of houses for points of ingress and egress?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's actually probably a question better addressed to Chief Bedolla, if he's still there. My understanding, if I remember correctly, is there needs to be at least 2 points of access per the fire code, but I'm not by no means a fire code expert. So I think that probably meeting the 2 points of access may meet the minimum code, but I think what the fire department is saying is that with more recent experience with fires, that it's not just getting the fire equipment or the police cars in and out, it's also evacuation. It's just as important. And so having alternate means of evacuation for both neighborhoods, proposed and existing, having alternate ways, multiple ways to get in and out of a neighborhood, I think that's what the fire department's advocating. But I'll let Charlie's the expert. I yield to Chief Dolan.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's affirmative. That was our greater, for the better of the public safety, was being able to get everybody out so we can go do our job. If it's locked up, everyone's not able to get out and they'll bottleneck through there, and that just delays us to be able to go do our jobs that are in there. My biggest concern is for the Oak Creek and Quail Hollow area. Usually it's 30 homes, unsprinklered. After that, then you have to have 2. Well, they said themselves, there's over 200 homes in the Quail Hollow, Oak Creek. My main concern is for them to get out. And even if it's a one-way from Oak Creek, Quail Hollow, out to that new development, I'm okay with that, as long as it's open to connectivity, that we do have that. You gotta understand, though, a lot of parts on that too with law enforcement. What's happening is, these lock gates, that's leaving them up for people coming in, parking here, and they do it, commit crimes, take off, run over there, and you're unable to chase them in a vehicle, police. It's a dead-end spot for them also. So these access roads that they do have in town, they're absolutely a waste. We don't utilize them. The locks are rusted on them. We've never used them, and it's a great place for criminal activity to take place also. But my main concern was getting the people out from Oak Creek and Quail Hollow. It was built for that, with that third access up point up there, for them to be able to build out. That's probably the only, I guarantee it was the only reason it was built for the future like that, to have the 3 of them, because they have well over 200 unsprinkled homes. That's the biggest problem right there. Is I was happy, I was like, good, it's there, we got that. We have that extra space for them in there, for everyone to get out, so we could get in there and do our job. It wasn't a problem of getting us in there, it's getting those people locked in there and not being able to get out so we could get in and go do our job or protect those homes.
Thank you. One more through the chair for Mr. Boyd.
Go ahead.
For Mr. Boyd. Could you discuss the traffic improvements?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Madam Chair. So I think the way I would start my answer, Madam Chair, is that the part of the CEQA process, there's probably been 1,000 pages or more of various technical reports prepared for project. All of that information is available to the public online. It's either posted as a part of the initial study in iteration, or all the appendices are available. But what might be better to look at for the interested public would be to look at the mitigation, monitoring, and reporting program, which is attached to the staff report, the agenda item as posted on Novus. And there was a traffic analysis prepared for the project, and its conclusions in terms of mitigation measures, which is fairly typical for San Benito County, is that projects are required to pay a mitigation impact fee, the traffic impacts. And so certainly the project will be required to pay its fair share of traffic impact fees that are then used for capital improvements in the county based on decisions made by COG and local jurisdictions. And so that's one thing. There's at least one other capital mitigation measure, I think, that's included in the MMRP I think it's on page 19. There are some improvements that are reported in the project for Southside Road widening. There's some improvements for Sunny Slope Road, right turn overlap and so forth. So it's both two-pronged, I guess, Madam Chair, I would say, in terms of traffic impact mitigations. The biggest one, which is typical of all projects like this in the county, is to pay the traffic impact mitigation fee. Then in addition, there are some specific actual improvements on the ground that the project will make, and those are identified in the mitigation monitoring reporting program. So if that doesn't answer the question adequately, I can take another stab at it, Madam Chair.
Does that answer?
It answers the general question, but I have a more specific question about the improvement to Southside Road. It says the project applicant shall widen Southside Road at Enterprise Road to add a southbound left turn lane. And then there's another portion that says alternatively they can put in a stop sign. What would be the benefit of putting in a stop sign over keeping traffic flowing?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, where's Commissioner Gibson, where are you seeing that, Commissioner Gibson?
Page 19 of the mitigation measures. Not being an expert in traffic, I would think not stopping traffic would be more efficient, but it allows an alternative, and I don't understand what the benefit to the community would be.
Having a stop sign, you mean?
Correct, as opposed to a turn lane where traffic continually flows. Because there's already a stop sign up at Hospital.
I don't know if, yeah, and you're saying stop sign at, I'm sorry, at Southside and where?
Enterprise. There's an alternative option to put in a stop sign as opposed to widening the road and putting in a turn lane.
Yeah, I don't know if Ann can help me, or maybe if Megan Jones is on the line, if Megan can maybe help me on that one. I'm trying to find it in the documents to make sure that I see why it was laid out as an alternative.
Megan's available, can I unmute her?
Yes, please do. So,
Megan, you're unmuted now?
Hello, good evening. It's Megan Jones with Burton Conceptual, who was the preparer of the initial study paper document. I am not a traffic consultant, so I think it's specific, but I can speak to the mitigation measure, which is CRA-3, the Southside Road widening. As mentioned, it says to widen Southside Road at Enterprise Road at a southbound left turn lane, and it does allow
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
And Commissioner, also, as you can see, is the, on page 18 with the mitigation, the TIMF, the traffic impact mitigation fees go towards proportional payment into the program for the regional road improvements, of which Enterprise Road, Airline Highway, Southside Road at Union, these on page 18 here, and Union Road at Mitchell, that there's planned improvements for traffic movement at these intersections, of which you would have 149 new payees into that proportionality. These other ones that you've already been speaking about were project-specific construction alternatives. But there's also the traffic fees that would be collected that go into the pot so that those improvements could be made.
It's sometime in the future. Date unknown.
Yeah, but they're on rotational capital improvement programs, generally with 5-year horizons of things that get done and don't get done, and others that move up. So it's a very, there's no secrets, it's transparent. You might have funding issues, but it'll be in the public eye.
Okay.
And just one follow-up question through the chair, just, and Tavin, what are those traffic impact fees? I know we've talked about fees in the past, I just don't have that number off the top of my head, and it's maybe based on square footage and other types of criteria.
Well, broadly.
149 units, are we talking, $149,000, or is this something greater than that, right?
I know that Commissioner Rodriguez can speak to this, but basically in Monterey County, wow, that was a flashback. San Benito County, there's 3 tiers of fees, with the least expensive being closer to the Santa Clara, Gilroy line, and then a little more expensive fee coming down. But then in the body of where all these subdivisions are is like tier 3, because actually there's more use of those roads in between. And the traffic impact fees for single-family residents can be in the $16,000 to $25,000 apiece. Commissioner Rodriguez, is there a number that's burned in you from a recent experience?
I think it was like 19,000.
Yeah, about
for my
$19,000. So this neighborhood is in the tier 3. It's, right, and so, and they come in phases, right? I mean, if they're gonna build phase 1, the county collects that at the time of building permit, not prior to the map, where you grab it all at the map, but it comes in over time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want. I have a long list of stuff, so I don't know how we're gonna do this.
Is there still room for comments?
No.
I was just gonna say the traffic impact fees.
This is, public comment was,
Public
Through the
comment,
chair?
comment is closed.
Public comment is closed, sir. I'm sorry.
it's to the commission now, please, for deliberation.
I have one further question for Chief Bedolla. The different types of closure on that road to Quail Hollow, there was a bump out proposal, a narrowing of the road, basically to calm the traffic and keep it open for fire and traffic, basically.
Absolutely.
As well as accommodate.
You could have the bulb outs where you narrow it down to 20 feet, because I believe the street was 36 for the two-way, but having the natural bulb out, red, and the stop sign helps us slow the traffic too.
What is the fire department's preference in this case as to how, I'm really hearing the fact that there's a big concern about evacuating this unfire
Sprinkled residents there.
Sprinklers, thank you.
Yeah.
Sprinkled homes. And so, there are enough disaster potentials out there without, our multiplying it and not being concerned. Even if it is a little inconvenient for residents, I think the bulb out is going to slow the traffic, and that's going to help the concerns of the citizens on both sides to have not a thoroughfare. Now, when that road comes through, it goes across the property, is that correct? It's not going straight down. It goes across over to the walking path, basically. Unless I'm looking at this incorrectly.
That's correct.
And it goes to the walking
Yeah.
path.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not like a thoroughfare through there. It's not going to be a racetrack. And I think that's the type of concern that neighborhoods have, that you're not going to have a racetrack.
Yeah, it flows right out there. It flows nicely. I mean, they have the roundabouts in there, and the way they configured it, you know, the traffic's gonna flow nicely and nice and slow through there. So I really don't see any of these residents going into Oak Creek and Quail Hollow to get out that way, because they're closer to coming out this way. If anything, it would be all the Quail Hollow and Oak Creek people coming out that way to get to Southside Road to get to that stoplight.
Right.
So the concern for them in going in there, I don't see that happening at all.
Yeah.
So, like I said, our job, it's not to scare, but it is to it is to follow the code and to make it better and to upgrade as we go along. So we're just following the bare bones minimum code. We haven't made any amendments that are stricter. This is just straight out of the boilerplate, and it's our job to be prepared for that big one when it does happen, not if, it's when. So that's our job. If we go against it, we're accepting all liability for that, and we're not willing to accept liability for life safety issues that's adopted by the state fire code. And public safety is our number one and essential priority for us.
Sure.
And we live here too.
Thank you. Yeah, those were my thoughts as well. Can we bring the discussion back to the board, commission? Sorry.
So,
Okay, I have some comments. I know that prior planning departments wanted everything to be connectivity to, everything to connect, not like the old days. You had dead end, block roads. And that was the whole area, there was a special study, so it went around for about 3 years. So they were telling all the owners and all the developers that want to be developed there, connect all the streets. I mean, unfortunately, Quail Hollow, that's a public road. If the realtor told them that it's gonna be a dead end, the realtor lied to them. But, I mean, we gotta keep everything nice and flowing. We can't just, if we do this to this project, the next project, they're gonna want to block the same thing. I mean, also, I think Roberts Ranch is gonna be putting a stoplight on Highway 25 and Enterprise. Things in there. Might check with the city on that. So that, I know there was a lady concerned about the Enterprise, so there's gonna be a stoplight there. Because that intersection is real busy. So the way this is designed, that's what prior planning commissioners wanted. I think Mr. Ray Pierce here at the time wanted everything to connect. And this is ideal. I mean, that's my opinion.
Very good. Commissioner Gibson?
Tavin has something.
Kevin, did you?
Thank you if you wanted to address me. If you do remember about two and a half years ago, before the Bluffs subdivision came before you, is planning staff did give a presentation on the general plan policies about cul-de-sacs, dead-end streets, and thoroughness and connectivity. And we pointed to the several general plan policies that speak about connectivity here. There's a general plan foundation in addition to your public safety official here. That, and literally, I mean, if just cul-de-sacs and dead-end roads were just okay, you wouldn't have designed them like that and left them in the ground with the curb and gutter just going to a hard line. You know, it's designed to connect. But thank you. Sensitivities and planning principles change over time, as well as weather and fire safety.
Thank you.
So through the chair, then my comment would be that it appears there's a consensus of the commission thus far that it won't be an EVA. Is there a consensus to do a bulb out and narrow that to the 20 feet, or where are we in that part of the discussion?
My opinion is keep it the road width.
No bulb out.
No bulb out, no.
I like the fact that we have connectivity there. But if there's needs to restrict just the thoroughfare and making that a quiet connectivity area, I'm open to do that, whether it's this bulb suggestion, you can do a stop sign there, you can do rumble strips, you can do bumps, you can do humps, you can do, there's multiple things that we could look at to say, hey, what are we trying to address here? We're trying to address, one, connectivity. We want to ensure connectivity for safety of the residents, for emergency vehicles. Two, we want to make sure that doesn't become a thoroughfare, that, it's a speed zone. So, how are we addressing that? And three, obviously we want to make sure that it keeps the neighborhood like the residents want, a quiet neighborhood where families and kids can be riding bikes and things like that. So I don't know if we have a consensus on what that is. I think we want to do what's right for the neighborhood and ensure connectivity, but I don't know if I heard, hey, this is the absolute plan that's going to do all that. I don't know if the rest of the commission has heard that yet, but it sounds like there's definitely alternatives, but I haven't decided on what that alternative is at this point.
And I think through the chair, I would also echo that sentiment of, I think upholding connectivity between the community there, I think is important. But I also am a little lost in terms of alternatives. I know we've talked about a couple, but no true consensus on that. So I'd like to hear a little more on that side of the discussion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Harry Mavrogenis. If I may suggest, I think Chief Bedola mentioned the possibility of a one-way out approach, because his concern was really the existing neighborhoods, accessibility and safety. I don't know if that would work, but that is an option that may be worth looking at, because it would eliminate traffic going into the neighborhood. It would give them the opportunity to escape in case there was a major fire. Just for discussion.
That's interesting. How would you propose that be done? I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, this is Daryl. I just wanted to sort of tag on to what Harry was saying, and hopefully this might be helpful to the commission. The real question, at least in my mind, to the commission is, should there be a full street connection or not? Yes or no? And then if you don't think that there should be a full street connection, then I don't think the commission needs to worry quite so much about design particulars, but I think that's really the fundamental question. Is it a full street connection, or is it something that's less and more limited? And I think that that then with that direction, at the time of final improvement plans, there can be a solution or alternative solutions looked at. I'm not sure that the commission needs to struggle with designing exactly what it should look like or not at this point. It's just my thought anyway.
I'm seeing Chief Bedola wanting to speak.
Like I said, I think this was a great project. I think we should move forward. I think we just approve it with connectivity, and then we could work out the plans later on. I mean, those are all great options that we can do. 20-foot is the option. We could cut it down to 20 feet. We could do the bulb outs. We could do the traffic narrowing. There's different options. We could do the one-way, but the minimum is 20 feet is what it is. So, if you do it 20 feet, you still have room on both sides for, if it's a one-way, for bike lanes on both sides too, going out too. So that's something great too that we could put in there. So those are all options. I think it's just approve it with connectivity is what we really want to do. If sound okay, if that sounds right.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from Mr. Mavrogenis as well, and Daryl. I am kind of at a loss how to proceed when there is a lot that might need to come up yet.
Get one
Can-
commissioner and fire off all their questions,
Mhm.
so that we're not going back and forth and forgetting where we left off, would be my suggestion. Are you start
you'd
at one
like-
end and work our way down? Instead of bouncing back and forth, it's be a little more efficient and let one commissioner run through their list.
Okay.
So just a couple other questions, just on the affordable housing element, which I really appreciate what the developers are trying to do here, because, you know, I've been here for that long, but to actually come forward with a plan to try to achieve what Governor Newsom's hoping that we do, which is the 15%. So, and coming up with that plan around, you know, offering up a down payment for the 16 moderate income homes. I think that's kind of unique. I guess my question, and maybe this is more kind of Jamila to answer, is, you know, what's your thought in terms of how to implement what's being proposed here with the $598,000 being offered up for down payments, and how would the county administer that?
Yes, that's a good question. I don't know if the applicant has anything to add to that, but how I envisioned it what they've proposed is something that the county doesn't necessarily have a, what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, doesn't necessarily have a huge role in terms of it, that it is something that's given directly to the individual. But it's something that we can talk about and discuss on how we feel it would work best. I know that the applicant did want to not have to use so much staff time, and to help ease the fact that there will be a lot of applicants, there'll be a lot of questions, but helping it be directly to the future homeowner. But it could be potentially that one option is that we could collect the money and then give that back to the homeowner. But that makes it somewhat difficult in terms of that, and in terms of managing a fund balance that way. So I'm not sure, and that's something that we will need to discuss on how we see it working best, if it's something just given directly to the homeowner or in some sort of fund.
Madam Chair, this is Harry Member Jones again.
Oh, okay.
We would do a housing agreement with the developer well before their final map, so that we would have all the specifics laid out there. But there would be a good measure of control in that agreement.
Okay, and Harry, I guess a follow-up question to that is, you know, typically when a developer's paying an impact fee or in lieu fee, you know, that goes into just an overall bucket that the county manages. So in this particular case, is this $598,000 going to be specifically earmarked towards the 16 units here in this development, or how is that going to be managed?
Yes.
It will be, okay.
The development agreement would specify, the housing agreement would specify that the funds would be used for this project. That's the intent of the developer, and I think it's critical that the money go directly back into the project.
Okay, great. That's the questions I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Gibson?
Through the chair then, I just had a question regarding the lots that are adjacent to the existing developments. These are so small. 111 through 116 and 131 through 137, I think. Those are one story to avoid neighbors looking down at the existing development. What about lots 148 and 149? Is there a similar issue there? Or is the grade sufficiently different where they won't be peering down into the existing neighbor in Ridgemark?
Madam Chair, let me pull up a map, and unless Ann Hall happens to know off the top of her head, I'm not sure which lots are 148 and 149.
The two that line up with the existing home at Ridgemark that's at the end of that roadway. That's Quail Hall that wraps around? Up at the top by the green space.
There are actually 5 lots there.
Yes, but it's a open space above that to the north, to the south.
Yeah,
Oh, correct,
But
correct.
there is one residential lot right there at the end that abuts 148 and 149.
Please.
Please.
Oh, yeah, I see, Madam Chair. Yeah, 140, looks like 149 would be right next to the park, and then 148 would be just to the east of that. If I'm reading the grading plan correctly, it looks like I don't think that those are gonna sit up higher than that adjacent lot, because they're actually downhill from it. So I wouldn't expect that there would be big, visual issue in terms of the new houses. And there again, those lots are deep enough that, it might be possible to push, the more forward the house is on those lots, then it's gonna, up down a little bit more. I don't think it's the same kind of concern that you have along the eastern edge. I mean, that's something that we can certainly look at more when we get into the more detailed grading plans and the final improvement plans. Something that we can make a note and look at when we get into more details. I'm assuming, Madam Chair, that Commissioner Gibson just wants to make sure that it doesn't present a problem for that property owner.
Correct.
Yeah. Commissioner Gibson, just reading the topo lines with my extra magnifying power here, is 149 and 148 are about the place you would place a house, or anywhere between 8 and 10 feet lower in elevation than the properties there to the south.
And that would be, that's what I was coming up here to say. The Ridgemark property is definitely higher than where we are in this one. And that's a fairly large lot with a single house on it that's not even gonna be right up next to the property line.
Okay.
So,
But I think the discussion had been that eastern property line with one-story limitations. Commissioner, are you entertaining the same kind of height limitation on these two properties as well?
If it was going to be an issue, but apparently it's not, so we're good there.
All right, thank you.
My only other question about that would be, what is standard modern practice as far as lot lines lining up? One of these people in the existing homes has 3 1/3 or 3 1/4 backyards butting up against their backyard. Is that standard planning practice?
You know, I would agree that is awkward in some situations, but it's case by case, and when you do have different lot sizes and patterns like this, it generally can be the case that you have additional neighbors. Which one is it that you're speaking about?
Oh, boy. One, oh,
Well, from where the road stubs to Quail, you want to navigate from there?
13, 14, 15, and 16, I think.
Got it, yeah. I
It's
see it.
difficult to see, but I mean,
Yeah, that's right. Those are the numbers. yeah.
even a magnifying glass wouldn't help this.
All right, so 112.
the three lots you're talking about are 114, 115, 116, or behind that one pie-shaped lot?
That's correct.
And again, I'm not sure, I'm sure you must have it in some form. If you look at the grading plan, that particular lot, probably the back third, is a 2-to-1 slope in the backyard up to this property. So that house sits fairly forward on its property and has a very large slope in the backyard. In terms of common practice, to answer that question, I wouldn't say that there's a rule one way or the other. It's kind of where it laid out, because of the way the road turns within Quail Hollow, they have those pie-shaped lots there. But that one in particular has a very large slope in the backyard. I think if you look at the grading, you can see that.
Okay. Then
Okay.
that answers my concerns. Everything else was answered during the presentation. Thank you.
Wow, here we go again. We've had the public hearing. and the, planning, oh. Okay, what do we need to do next? Daryl, I mean,
So, Madam Chair, you were kind of polling the commissioners. We started at Mr. Edgar's, went to Gibson, and then both of you had the opportunity with Mr. Navarro, if you wanted to. Is that?
well, the issue is,
Oh.
I mean, we dealt with the road. We've looked at all these other concerns, and now at this point,
Oh.
how should we bring that
Oh,
together?
Thank you. Okay.
Entertain a motion.
Entertain a motion?
That's it, okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to deal with this.
Mr. Boyd, would you remind us on which page here in your staff report had the
Yeah, the
recommended
slide would be
motion?
helpful.
Planning resolution,
Yeah,
Plan.
page 14, is it?
but there was also the
One,
staff
page 1 of
recommendation.
14?
Yeah, so, even the cover sheet, the
There you go.
bonus cover sheet would work too.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
The request is to amend the county code, chapter 25.9, planned unit development, PUD. District to update development standards, design criteria, and permitted uses to implement and be consistent with the 2035 general plan. Change the subject site zoning from rural residential to residential multiple, and PUD combining district, and a vesting tentative subdivision map for 149 single-family residential lots, public park, affordable housing, and infrastructure improvements, approximately 49.95 acres. Proposed lot sizes ranging in size from 4,500 to 16,125 square feet, with an average size of 8,960 square feet. General plan land use designation, residential mixed zoning district, rural residential, environmental review, draft initial study. I'm still looking for the resolution.
Yeah, Madam Chair, may I suggest we turn a few pages earlier than that, which is the one that's boldly titled, item number 8, and it's the cover page to the staff report that has a pretty succinct staff recommendation right there for the several actions that we're putting before the commission this evening. That was great detail that you shared with us, but I think
Right.
we're looking at more of a macro.
Just to be clear, staff recommendation recommends the planning commission consider and adopt the final mitigated negative declaration, adopt a resolution, attachment 2, recommending the board supervisor adopt an ordinance to approve, adopt an ordinance to change the zoning map, adopt a resolution. Is that what we need?
But
I
That's,
don't know,
that,
there are too
or-
many of these things.
through the chair, before we get there, I have one last question of Mr. Boyd. The question from the resident about usage of the road and the new development paying traffic impact fees to pay for
That thing.
their road. Where are we with that? Was there a resolution to that? Will this development be paying for the upkeep of the existing roadway in the neighboring subdivision?
Supervisors.
I think we have to just do this one here.
Yeah, Madam Chair, the proposed project,
I think
it's
the
a
existing
sort of
subdivision
situation for the existing
pre-exists the
subdivision
CFD.
versus this proposed one.
probably see the same.
The county now has in place the countywide community facilities district. So this project would be required to make its, appropriate, annex to that district and then make its appropriate contributions to that district. To the extent that commissions should approve the proposed project without full street access to existing Quail Hollow Creek subdivisions, I think that issue becomes moot. There's not a full street connection. I think that's a moot point. even if there was a full street connection, the traffic analysis that was prepared for the project showed that there would be very little traffic, if any, between the proposed project and the existing subdivisions. And if anything, what would more likely is that traffic from the existing subdivisions use that back and forth through the proposed project to get to Enterprise Road. So I don't, in either case, whether that street's connected or not, it's really, I don't really think it's an issue. And then others, Alan or Joel, somebody else may want to speak further on that. But this project's obligation is to only take care of its own maintenance, as far as I know. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, I'm still looking for the verbiage we need.
All right, so Madam Chair, as I would provide assistance is,
Thank you.
with the items that Mr. Boyd has in front of you on the screen, items 1, 2, and 3, the subject du jour about access through Quail Hollow might be that a motion, however qualified, would kind of add some language one way or the other in number 3, which is the vesting tentative subdivision map, finding conditions, where the motion maker would speak to how they wish that connection to be made right there. So I'm not, Mr. Boyd, did I capture that? Did I cap?
That's a good point, I think, Tabitha. And just to help clarify, perhaps, is that existing staff recommendation right now is that it would not be a full section. RMA staff is recommending in the staff report and as shown on whatever sheet 3 or whatever, and as shown in the staff report, RMA staff recommendation right now is that the access from Quail Ridge Way would be restricted, or in other words, it's not a full street connection. So I think if the commission goes with staff recommendation for approval, access would be restricted. If commission wanted it to be a full street access, then you would need to state that, I think.
Full street or some other configuration that's been discussed, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Ted. Yes, thank you.
We just take them all individually.
Or is that the recommendation on page 11 of 11?
Yep, that'd be 1, 2, and 3.
Is that what we're working on?
That's what we're working on.
Okay.
Looks like that,
Staff recommendations, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah,
okay.
so,
Okay, the issue is then, commissioners, what is the consensus on the street through? And to determine that it should be through or restricted?
it's restricted down, according to Darrell, right?
Correct. In the
Correct.
drawings, it shows it restricted.
And I may remind, it's, 504132, so the motion maker could speak to however they wish the configuration to be, and then you could vote on that as well.
Okay.
Do
Take
we
a
have
look.
a proposal?
Let's start with number 1. Let's, I move to consider and adopt the final mitigated negative declaration together with any comments received during the public review process, and find on the basis of the whole record before it, including the initial study and any comments received, that there is no substantial evidence that the project will have a significant effect on the environment, and that the mitigated negative declaration reflects the county's independent judgment and analysis, and to adopt a resolution recommending the Board of Supervisors adopt an ordinance to approve the amendments to the planned unit development combining district as recommended by staff, and adopt an ordinance to change the zoning map for the project site from rural residential to residential multiple and PUD, with findings that proposed zoning map change will serve the public necessity, convenience, and general welfare, and is in good zoning practice. And to adopt a resolution approving the vesting tentative subdivision map with findings and conditions of approval as recommended by staff, which would include reducing the throughfare to something less than a full street. Does that work for the,
That work for the fire department, yeah?
Chief Bedolla?
I think that works, because it's just saying we're cutting it down from the 36 down to the 20 with connectivity.
and then we'll figure out the details
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Mhm.
With connectivity being
Connectivity.
primary.
Yeah,
And I think that that verbiage should be there.
there'll be no gate or no,
And let's just be clear on connectivity. It's
Correct.
not EVA. Connectivity means that people in vehicles can move between
Yes.
these places.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
thank you, Commissioner, for your motion being put on the table.
I
Do we have a
second that
second?
motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Navarro? Thank you. It's 5-0 approved with
Approved.
conditions. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Commissioner comment?
May I see
Commissioner
we're kind of
comments.
itchy to get out of here, but there's still the, thank you for that. There's still the moment here of planning commissioner announcements, and I'm also realizing that inadvertently I dropped my planning department announcement. So what's your wish?
Shall we let
I do.
the principal planners do his announcements?
Commissioner announcements.
I don't have that page.
Calvin didn't do his announcements. He skipped them at the beginning.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh.
Department.
We have department announcements,
Yeah,
please.
may I? Thank you.
Thank you.
Seems like we've got enough business here to almost be meeting twice a month here. And we might have something queued up again for right at the cusp of September, October. Would the commission be amenable to me just kind of lining a calendar out for September, October? November and December get a little dicey, but maybe about just a two meeting rotation?
If it can,
Yeah.
if it will move business forward, I think,
Okay.
are we?
Yeah.
I mean, I have some things to coordinate. One is, your attendance as well, and we need quorums, and as well as the TV folks and the room being available. But I just wanted to give a heads up that it appeared we have business and timing that would have us meet twice a month.
Mm.
And on its face, it's okay with you?
That'll work.
Yeah,
Yep,
work.
we'll make it work.
All right, thank you for that.
It was nice to see such an excellent project today, this evening.
Thank you. I have nothing further today. Thank you.
Commissioners, any announcements?
Nothing from me?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Commissioner Navarro?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned at 8:23 PM on September 2nd, 2020.
All right, we'll see you next.
Wow, that was a lot of work.
It's a couple of weeks, huh?
Yeah,
2 weeks. We get 1 week off, and then 1 week on.
right.
Well, we'll see you.
See you later.
We'll see, Robert. Good to see you, man.
Good work.